It was nearly midnight in a quiet cul-de-sac in rural Saskatchewan. The wind outside howled like it was warning her. But Claire Morgan wasn't thinking about omens, she was thinking about the dog. Rusty, her golden retriever, had been barking non-stop for over an hour. Not at the door, not at the window. No, he stood rigid in the middle of the living room, eyes locked on a spot near the corner where the floor met the wall. He growled low, then barked again, pawing furiously at the hardwood. Claire had tried everything, treats, toys, shouting, but Rusty wouldn't move. That's when she noticed it. A faint, sickly smell, like something had died, or something had been rotting for days. She narrowed her eyes and knelt down. The floorboard there was slightly warped. She pressed a hand against it. It moved. That wasn't normal. Claire fetched a flathead screwdriver from the kitchen drawer, knelt again, and wedged it between the boards. With a hesitant push, the panel gave way with a brittle crack. The moment it popped open, Rusty backed away, whining. Inside the crawlspace, there was darkness, cold, unmoving air, and something else. A piece of fabric. Claire reached in slowly. Her fingers brushed against soft cotton, then something rougher, like dried blood. She pulled it out, stood up, and nearly dropped it. It was her husband's shirt, torn, dirt-stained, and unmistakable. The same green flannel he had been buried in. She had picked it out herself. She remembered the funeral vividly. Just 3 months ago, he had died in a supposed car accident, the body badly burned, the face barely recognizable. The police said the fire had destroyed almost everything. She didn't get to see the body. They told her it was better not to. Claire stumbled backward, the shirt clutched in one trembling hand. Her mind spun. No, this wasn't possible. He was dead. She buried him. But then, who was in the casket, and why was his shirt here? She stared into the open crawlspace, too afraid to look deeper, but unable to look away. The shadows inside seemed to shift. Something was in there, or had been in there. 3 months earlier, Claire and David had been married 7 years. Not a perfect marriage. What marriage is, but solid, stable. Or so she thought. David was a contractor, often gone for days at a time, working on remote properties, cabins, and vacation homes out in the woods. Claire never questioned it. She trusted him, or tried to, because then there was that night, just weeks before the accident, when he came home late, dirty, and shaking. He didn't say where he had been, wouldn't eat, wouldn't talk. He just sat on the edge of the bed, his hands caked in dried mud, staring at the floor. That was the night she first noticed something was wrong. And then came the crash. A fiery wreck on a remote logging road. Car unrecognizable. Driver burned. Beyond recognition. ID matched. They told her it was David. He'd been cremated. Only a few charred remains had been buried. The symbolic kind of closure. She never questioned it until tonight. Claire didn't sleep. She sat at the kitchen table with the flannel shirt in front of her, like a ghost had crawled up from the grave and laid it there. Her mind raced in brutal circles. She thought of calling the police, but what would she say? Hi, yes, my dog found a shirt under the floor, and I think my dead husband is alive. She needed answers. Real answers. The crawlspace wasn't very deep, but it ran the length of the house. She fetched a flashlight, took a breath, and slid herself inside. The air was colder than it should have been. Dust clung to every surface. Cobwebs snagged in her hair. The beam of light trembled in her hand. 10 feet in, she found more. A small duffel bag inside, a prepaid phone, a second phone battery, a small stack of cash, mostly 20s, a utility knife, and something that made her blood go cold. A photo of herself, taken from outside their house, printed in grainy black and white. The timestamp said, 2 weeks ago. That was after David died. She dropped the bag, heart pounding. Something rustled behind her. She twisted. Nothing but her foot. nudged something on the ground. A footprint. Fresh. That's when she realized she wasn't the only one who'd been in here. She called her sister, Megan, the only person she still trusted. Megan came over an hour later, furious and scared. You're telling me there's a photo of you, recent, in a bag with money and burner phones, hidden under your house? Megan whispered, wide-eyed Claire. That's not a coincidence. Someone's watching you. I think David faked his death, Claire whispered. I think he's alive and hiding. But why? Claire hesitated. Because he was into something bad. I don't know what. But that night, before he died, he was terrified. Megan stared at her for a long second, then nodded. We need to find out the truth. Over the next 2 days, Claire did what the police never had. She looked through David's things, or what little remained. She found an old set of keys to a storage unit in town. The receipt on the tag was recent. Inside the unit, a second truck, unregistered, survival gear, and more photos, dozens of them, of people. Some she recognized from local news reports. Missing persons. One had been her old neighbor. Another was a teenage girl who disappeared a year ago. Claire's hands trembled. Then she found the journal, or rather, a field notebook, filled with frantic scrawls and page after page of maps, GPS coordinates, and terrifying phrases. They found me. Stay underground until winter. She doesn't know. Don't let her know. Trust no one. Claire's blood ran cold. What had David gotten himself into? That night her phone rang. Unknown number. Static. Then a voice. A whisper. Stop digging. She froze. Who is this? Clicked. Dead silence. She turned to Megan. He's watching us. Then it's time we watch him back. Claire installed cameras around the house, changed her locks, alerted a private investigator, someone who owed Megan a favor. The PI confirmed something no one else had. David had withdrawn $30,000 in cash, days before the crash, then bought supplies under an alias. He never boarded the last ferry from the construction site. His last confirmed sighting was at a gas station 2 hours after the time of death. The crash. They set up the body, unidentified, DNA, unverifiable, too damaged, which meant David wasn't dead, and he was close. That night, Claire was reviewing the new footage from her back porch camera. The timestamp said 3:12 a.m. At first, nothing. Then, movement. A tall man in a hooded jacket walked up the side yard. He turned toward the camera. The motion lights flared on, and for a brief second, Claire saw his face, scarred, burned, and undeniably David. Claire stared at the paused security footage, hands trembling. There he was, in burned, sagging skin and a hooded coat, standing just 20 feet from her back door. Her husband, the man she buried. David. Scarred, but alive. Megan stood behind her, stunned. Jesus Christ, that's him. Claire didn't speak. Her mind was already racing far ahead, replaying the funeral, the grief, the way everyone told her to let it go, all while the man who'd promised to love her till death had been hiding in the shadows, watching. Plotting. But why? Claire didn't sleep again that night. She COULDN single quotes. By morning, she was pacing the kitchen, her eyes red, her voice hoarse, as she whispered to Megan, he's close, maybe even under the house again. Megan crossed her arms. We can't just sit here waiting. If he's coming back, we need answers, not another photo or torn shirt. We confront him, face to face. Claire nodded slowly. But how do you catch someone who doesn't want to be found? Megan hesitated, then said something Claire would never forget. Simple. You make him think you want to disappear too. The trap. They staged it. That night, Claire posted a fake video on her private Facebook, visible only to one specific, custom-created group of friends. She made herself look unstable, worn out, like she was finally breaking under the weight of David's death. I just need to be gone for a while, she whispered on camera. Too many memories. I think I'm gonna leave for a while. Alone. I'll be off-grid for a bit. Then they set the real trap. Claire parked her car on a remote service road, an hour outside town, made sure the keys were in the ignition, and left a note in the front seat that said, "Don't look for me." Then she and Megan hiked half a mile through the woods to an old hunting cabin Megan's friend had loaned them. They brought supplies, sleeping bags, and the private investigator's field gear, motion cams, satellite phone, and binoculars. Now all they could do was wait. Day 2, the first night. Nothing. The second night, the motion camera outside the hunting cabin caught something. A single blurry frame, a man in the trees, crouched low, watching. Claire's blood turned to ice. "He's here. He followed you," Megan said. "Or he's been watching us longer than we thought." Claire's heart thudded. "He wants something, or he's afraid I'll find out something he buried." The third night, it happened. Claire woke up to the sound of someone breathing, not inside the cabin, but just outside the thin wooden wall. Heavy, labored, like someone hurt. She nudged Megan. "He's here." The breathing stopped. Then, a knock, not on the door, on the wall. 3 times, Claire's breath caught in her throat. She stood slowly, gripping the hunting knife they'd brought, more symbolic than useful. "Claire," a voice ragged, familiar. It was him. "Don't come out," Megan whispered, gripping her phone with the camera rolling. But Claire couldn't help it. She stepped toward the door and said, "Why?" Silence then, from just inches away. "Because they're still looking for me." She threw open the door. David stood there, hunched, scarred, his face partially covered by a melted hood and burned skin. One eye drooped, the other was sharp, wild. He looked like a man who'd died and clawed his way back up. Claire froze. The years of grief, love, and confusion warred inside her chest. "You're alive," she whispered. He nodded once. "You faked your death. You let me bury you." David's voice cracked. "I had no choice." Claire stepped closer. "Then tell me everything, right now." And finally, he did. David's story spilled out like a confession, broken, scattered, and terrifying. He had been working on a cabin near Coldwater Lake for a man named Chet Rourke, a client who paid in cash, asked no questions, and insisted David work alone. Rourke owned property deep in the woods, no cell service, no road access. But the real problem wasn't the cabin, it was what was buried under it. "I was digging for plumbing lines and found a sealed trapdoor," David said, eyes flickering, toward the trees as if someone might be listening. "Thought maybe it was storage. I pried it open." "What was inside?" Claire whispered. David shook his head. "I don't know exactly. Not at first. Just cages. Old ones. Chains. Blood. And something worse." He paused, breath catching. There were photos, Polaroids, of people, tied up dead. I recognized one of them, a girl who'd gone missing from Moose Jaw the year before. Claire's stomach dropped. David looked at her, voice shaking. Rourke was running something, a trafficking ring, or worse. I don't know how deep it went, but I knew if I reported it, I'd end up like them. "So, you ran?" Megan asked. David nodded, tried to gather proof first. Took photos, grabbed GPS data, but Rourke found out. His people came after me. I had no choice but to disappear. "You could have come to me," Claire said, eyes wet. "You could have told me. I thought if I stayed close, you'd be in danger too." Claire's voice turned sharp. "And burying a fake body, letting me grieve for months, that was your way of keeping me safe." David looked away. "I didn't expect you to look under the house. I thought I had more time." Claire shook her head slowly. "You're still lying." David blinked. "What? You've been watching me, following me. That picture of me in the duffel bag, that was taken after you supposedly died. I was trying to protect you by spying on me." By crawling under my house and leaving your dead shirt there, like a damn horror movie. David didn't answer, but his silence was an answer in itself. You weren't just running, Claire whispered. You were hunting something, or someone. That's when Megan stepped in. Claire, we need to go. David suddenly grabbed Claire's wrist, not roughly, but urgently. Listen to me, there are still others. I'm not the only one who knows. The people Rourke worked with, they'll kill anyone who finds out. They might already know you're looking. Claire yanked her hand back. Then maybe they should be afraid of me. Back at the house, they left the cabin that night, took the long route home. When they arrived, the house was dark, untouched, but the front door was unlocked. Claire always locked the door. She stepped in cautiously, knife in hand. Everything looked normal, until she walked into the living room. There, on the couch, was a new envelope. Inside, a printed screenshot of the Facebook video she'd posted. A red X scrawled over her face, and a USB stick. She plugged it into her laptop. Only one file. A video it showed a man tied to a chair in a dark room, his face beaten, his mouth gagged. Then a shadow stepped into frame, tall, muscular, wearing gloves. The voice was muffled, but clear enough. This is what happens when you dig into things that should stay buried. The screen went black. Claire stood frozen. David hadn't brought danger into their lives. It had followed him here, and now, it was in their house. Later that night, when Claire checked the crawlspace again, the duffel bag was gone. In its place was something new. A single Polaroid, a man in a cage, and on the back scribbled in shaky red ink, "She's next." She was next. That's what the Polaroid said. Claire held the photograph in shaking hands. The man in the picture was beaten, tied and caged like an animal. On the back, the words were scrawled in angry red ink. "She's next." She looked around the crawlspace, heart racing, eyes scanning every corner. The duffel bag was gone, stolen back, and whoever had taken it had left this in its place. Claire backed out slowly, not taking her eyes off the shadows behind her. When she finally stood upright in the hallway, Megan was there, pale and panicked. "You saw it too," Claire whispered. Megan nodded, holding up her phone. "Someone texted me. From your number." "What?" She handed it over. One text. Number. Media no name. Run. A hard truth. David was gone again. He'd vanished after the confrontation at the cabin. No goodbye. No warning. Just a smudged boot print in the mud and a camera battery left behind. Claire should have been furious. Instead, she felt hollow and more afraid than ever. What if he ran because he knew they were coming? Claire muttered, pacing the living room while Megan rechecked the locks for the third time that night. Or, Megan said softly, what if he's not just running from them anymore? What if he's working with them? Claire froze. It was a question she hadn't dared ask herself, but now it was eating her alive. Could David be leading them here? The next morning, Claire went back to the storage unit. She wasn't sure what she hoped to find. Maybe something David had missed. A clue, a name, anything. She sifted through old blueprints, maps, survival rations, and hunting gear. Then she found a folded slip of charred paper inside a rusted toolbox. It was a property survey, burned at the edges, but barely legible. Parcel 134C, Coldwater Ridge redacted coordinates, 51.420 N, 106.588 W. Claire typed the coordinates into her phone. It dropped her into the middle of nowhere, 2 miles from the nearest highway. No buildings, no name, just dense, untouched forest. I think this is where he found the trap door, she said quietly to Megan. And you think we should go there? Claire looked at her. I think if we don't, someone else is going to disappear. Maybe me. It took them 2 hours to reach the location by car, then another hour by foot. The trees thickened the deeper they went. Claire followed the GPS while Megan scanned their surroundings with a stun baton gripped in her hand like a lifeline. They came across rusted fencing, barbed wire sagging between moss-covered posts. Then, the remains of an old hunting cabin, rotten, collapsed, and scorched from fire damage. But the trapdoor, still intact. They pried it open. A wave of cold air hit them like a slap. Claire clicked on her flashlight and began to descend. The ladder led to a hallway made of concrete and wood. The walls were water-stained. The air smelled like rust and mold. They walked in silence, Megan holding her breath as they passed a locked metal door, then another, then a third, this one open. Inside, a cage. Claire stepped in. Her light caught on something small and metallic, a ring, not just any ring, her wedding ring, the one David claimed he lost on a job site years ago. Claire felt bile rise in her throat. That's when Megan whispered, "There's someone here." Footsteps, not theirs. They ducked behind a wall of shelves. Heavy footsteps echoed through the corridor. Then a figure appeared in the hallway, tall, dressed in gray coveralls and a black welding mask. His boots scraped against the cement floor. He passed them without noticing. Megan mouthed, "We need to go." But Claire shook her head and pointed to a door labeled Unit 6, the only one with a keypad. "It has power," Claire whispered. "There's something behind it." They waited until the masked man disappeared down another corridor, then rushed to the door. Megan began entering random codes. Third try. Click. The lock opened. Inside was a narrow room, a cot, a chair, a camera, and on the wall, photos. Claire's house, her car, her bedroom window. Someone had been watching her for months, and then she saw it. A corkboard covered in Polaroids. Faces. One of them was the caged man from the photo, and beneath his picture, a name, Subject 72, still alive. In the back of the room, a sliding panel opened to reveal another chamber. Brighter lights, surgical trays, blood-stained aprons. Claire felt the air grow heavier, thicker. On the far wall was a row of lockers. Inside one, she found a sealed envelope marked, "If found, send to RCMP, do not open." Claire hesitated, then opened it. Inside, a list, 90-7 names, dates, status, missing, recovered, dead. One name had been circled in red dot, Claire Morgan. She staggered back. "They plan to take me." Megan stood frozen. "Claire," she whispered, "we need to get out, now." They retraced their steps, back to the trapdoor ladder, but it was gone. The opening above them, sealed shut. Claire screamed, pounding on the wood. No response. The lights flickered. Then they heard it, laughter, not loud, not far. Then a new voice crackling over a hidden speaker. "Welcome to the next stage, Subject 98. The room plunged into darkness. A red light blinked to life in the corner. A camera activated. Claire turned to Megan. "We're not witnesses anymore," she whispered. "We're part of the experiment." Claire and Megan uncovered the underground facility David had once fled from. Cages, cameras, surgical trays, and a chilling list of names, including Claire's. But when they tried to escape, the exit sealed shut. A red camera light clicked on. A voice welcomed Claire as Subject 98. Now, they were no longer just searching for the truth. They were trapped inside it. Claire pressed her back to the damp concrete wall as the red light in the corner blinked rhythmically, like a heartbeat. She could feel it watching her, not just observing, but studying. Like she was a rat in a maze she never chose to enter. Megan stood silently beside her, knuckles white around the stun baton. The room was silent, except for the faint mechanical whir of a fan above. Then the speaker crackled again. "Let's begin." A metallic clank echoed through the corridor. Somewhere in the dark, a door had opened. The lights flickered on, one by one, guiding them down a long corridor, lined with rusted steel doors. On each, a faded, stenciled number, 73, 74, 75. Claire's stomach twisted with every step. Inside, each room, remnants of others who had been here. A torn boot, scratched walls, a child's drawing pinned with a rusted nail. One room had blood smears on the inside of the door, a desperate message scrawled in fingernails. Still alive. Don't tell them. Claire wanted to scream. She turned to Megan. How long do you think people have been here? Megan didn't answer. She didn't have to. Her silence was the answer. Too long. They reached a glass-walled room at the end of the corridor. Inside, 2 chairs, 1 table, and a flickering ceiling light. On the table sat a file folder marked Subject 98 Observations. Claire stepped in and flipped it open. Inside, stills from her life, photos from 6 years ago, a note about her therapy sessions after her miscarriage, details about David's financial strain, arguments they'd had, a private message she sent to a friend in confidence. Someone had been watching her for years. Megan leaned over her shoulder and whispered, Claire, how deep does this go? Claire's voice cracked. Too deep. Then came the voice again. Would you like to meet Subject 72? Another door slid open behind them with a hiss. Claire turned and followed the hallway into a small chamber. And there, just as in the Polaroid, was a man in a steel cage, beaten, malnourished, but alive. He looked up with one eye swollen shut. Claire stepped closer. Subject 72. The man croaked. My name is Paul. I was a paramedic. Saskatoon, 2019. Megan crouched beside the cage. What is this place? Paul let out a weak laugh. A human lab. Behavior, fear, loyalty. They test how people break. They take the ones no one will come looking for, or they fake the ones who have someone. Claire's voice cracked. David. Paul looked at her sharply. You knew David. Claire nodded. He was my husband. He told me he tried to expose this place, that he found a trap door. Paul's face hardened. David wasn't trying to expose it. He was one of them. Claire recoiled. What are you talking about? Paul's hands gripped the cage bars. David brought me here. He told me he was rescuing me, said he could get me out of the system, but he lied. He delivered me like a package. They paid him. No, Claire whispered. He told me he was running. He ran only when they turned on him. Paul's voice rose, raspy but filled with rage. He's the reason I've been in here for almost 3 years. Don't believe his scar story. He burned himself escaping his own mess. Claire stumbled back, reeling. The David she'd loved. The David who said he was protecting her. Had he lied to everyone? Megan pulled Claire away. We need to get out. Now. But Claire spotted something, a loose tile under Paul's cage. She reached through the bars and pried it open. Inside, a small flash drive, sealed in plastic, and a USB port behind a dusty console. She plugged it in. The screen on the wall flickered to life. Video, files, dozens of them. One played automatically. David, standing in this very room. I've brought Subject 72. We'll transfer him tomorrow. Compensation agreed? He turned to face the camera. I'll do one more. Then I'm done. Claire stared, frozen. The time stop. 4 days before the crash, she yanked the drive from the wall, chest heaving. David had lied. All of it. He didn't stumble into something evil. He had helped build it. Claire, Megan said, grabbing her hand. We need to leave before they make you number 98. They ran through the tunnels, retracing their path with the help of Paul's weak directions. He told them where the second exit was, a shaft near the generator room. It was narrow, lined with wires. But at the end, daylight. Claire turned back. We can't leave him. He can't run, Claire, Megan said. We can. We have the drive. We can expose them, then come back with the police. Claire hesitated, then nodded, tears in her eyes. Paul smiled faintly. Bring them here. Finish it. They crawled through the shaft and out into the woods. Blinking against the sun, they were free, but they didn't feel safe. Not yet. Later that night, back at Megan's apartment, Claire Claire uploaded the flash drive contents to 3 cloud accounts and emailed them to every news station, every journalist she could find. She didn't hide her name, not this time. She looked into the camera of her laptop and said, "My name is Claire Morgan, and what I found underneath. My home wasn't just my past, it was a system designed to break people. My husband helped build it. I'm not running anymore. I'm coming for them." Then she clicked send. Claire didn't cry. She just sat on the edge of Megan's couch, watching the video loop of David's confession again. He'd lied, he'd disappeared, but she hadn't, and that was his mistake. Sometimes, losing everything really is the only way to become who you're meant to be. Claire and Megan escaped a secret underground facility where people were held, studied, and broken. Claire learned the unthinkable. Her husband David hadn't just stumbled upon the system. He had helped build it. Now, armed with the truth and damning video evidence, Claire's no longer just a survivor. She's coming for them, the morning after her broadcast. Claire waited for the world to explode. It didn't. Single quotes, no headlines, no breaking news, no social media wildfire, not even a police knock at the door, just silence, too quiet. Even Megan was unnerved. They're not scrambling, they're erasing. Claire nodded, staring at the TV like it might flicker to life with the truth. They're cleaning it up. They're coming for you, Megan whispered. A woman talking about a human lab and her dead husband's lies. They'll call you unstable. Claire took a deep breath. Then we don't wait for them to come. Claire tried calling Paul, the man in the cage, using the underground intercom code he'd scribbled into her palm before she escaped. No answer. She called again. Nothing. By the 3rd day, she knew they had either moved him or silenced him. Her stomach twisted with guilt. He had trusted her. That night, the abandoned storage unit, where David had hidden his gear, went up in flames. Arson, the fire marshal said. It was electrical. Claire knew better. They were burning the trail. Every piece of it. All she had left now was the flash drive and the videos she'd uploaded. But even those were disappearing. One by one, her posts were flagged, removed, or vanished entirely. Too fast, Megan said. They've done this before. Claire clenched her jaw. We're doing it differently. She created a burner social media account under a fake name and posted something simple. I know where the bodies are buried. If I go missing, the files go to the media, the cops, and my lawyer. She attached blurred screenshots of the facility, the cage, and David's confession. And she waited. The reply came at 2:43 a.m. An unknown number. One word. Meet. Then coordinates. Deep in the forest, not far from the first trapdoor. Megan begged her not to go. Claire didn't listen. I'm ending this, she said. Even if it ends me. Claire arrived at dusk. Alone. She wore a camera, mic, and tracker, all wired to go live if she stopped moving for more than 3 minutes. The forest whispered with wind and threat. She followed the GPS to a clearing marked only by a single rusted lantern, swinging from a tree. Then a voice. Behind her, you shouldn't have come. She turned slowly. David, still scarred, still limping, but no longer hiding. Claire's breath caught. You're not even going to deny it anymore. David tilted his head. Deny what? That I helped them? That I built it? Or that I tried to stop it before they turned on me? He stepped closer. You think you were ever part of the plan? You were just leverage. Just obedience insurance. Claire's lip trembled. I loved you. And I needed you, he said coldly. Same thing, isn't it? He pulled it from his coat. Not shaking. Not hesitating. Claire's hands rose. But she didn't back down. You already lost, she whispered. Everything's backed up. The files are timed. If I die, they go public. David's eyes narrowed. You think that matters? These people own the silence. They don't erase evidence. They erase belief. Claire took a step forward. Then give them a reason to believe. He didn't shoot. He stared at her, the woman who had once been his, now standing with fire in her eyes and nothing left to lose. "You're not scared of dying," he muttered. "I already died," she said, "the night you did." A sound echoed in the distance, a deep, thunderous boom. David turned his head just as a plume of black smoke rose behind the tree line. Claire's voice was calm. That was Megan, blowing the generator room, the facility's backup drive, the cages, all of it. David's face twisted. "You don't know what you've done." "I do," Claire said. "I buried it. Just like you buried me." David lunged. The gun went off, grazing Claire's arm, but she grabbed his wrist and slammed it into a tree. They struggled in the dirt and moss, years of betrayal exploding between them. He whispered in her ear as they grappled, "You won't win, not really. They'll come for you." Claire jammed her knee into his chest and grabbed a jagged rock. "No," she said. "They'll come for you." She slammed the rock into his shoulder, hard, dislocating the joint. He screamed. The gun slid across the ground. Claire picked it up and pointed it straight at his heart. Not because she was weak, because she wanted him to live, to face the trial, the exposure, the reckoning. "You're not getting an easy way out," she said through tears. "You're going to be known for what you are." And she stepped back, just as headlights broke through the trees. RCMP, drawn by the signal from the tracker. They surrounded David, guns raised. He didn't resist. Claire watched him disappear into their custody, breathing like she'd been underwater for years. The trial was swift but dirty. Lawyers tried to bury it. Officials denied everything. But the public pressure, the images, the recordings, the names of the missing, made it impossible to contain Dot over the next 6 months. 4 underground sites were uncovered across Saskatchewan and Alberta. 20-2 survivors were rescued. 2 high-ranking law enforcement officials were arrested for obstruction and conspiracy. David Morgan was sentenced to 120 years, without parole. Megan testified. So did Claire. Her words became a quote that would later echo through headlines. "They studied how to break people, but they never studied what happens when we refuse to stay broken." Claire today she moved, not to hide, but to heal. She adopted a dog, wrote a book, started a foundation in Paul's name, who, thanks to a rescue team sent 2 days after the explosion, survived. He's still recovering, but he's alive, just like Claire. Not because she got lucky, because she stopped waiting to be saved and chose to fight back. Some stories don't end with monsters under the bed. Some end with monsters being dragged into the light. Claire's story didn't haunt her because of what she lost. It haunted her because of what she found. Her voice, her strength, her power. She wasn't just Subject 98. She was the one who burned it all down. The end.